A storm has broken across the global economy, one that could redraw the lines of power between East and West. For years, the West accused China of flooding markets, manipulating trade, and quietly taking over strategic industries. Now the retaliation has begun. Western governments have started seizing control of Chinese-owned firms. This isn't a routine trade spat. It's the first move in a new, unpredictable phase of an economic confrontation. What just happened in Europe may be the moment Beijing feared most. On paper, September looked like a comeback. China's exports jumped 8.3% year-on-year, hitting $328.6 billion, the fastest growth in 6 months. A proud headline, a message that China can survive tariffs and pressure. But beneath those numbers is a darker truth. Shipments to the United States collapsed, down 27% in a single month, and Chinese exporters scrambled for other markets. They found them: Europe, Southeast Asia, Africa, Latin America. Exports there surged nearly 15%, the fastest growth since early 2023. To Beijing, it looked like resilience. To many in Europe and the US, it looked like desperation. Factories in China are running at full tilt: cars, batteries, electronics. Even as profits evaporate, industrial profits have fallen to historic lows. Companies are selling at razor-thin margins, sometimes below cost, to clear massive inventories left over from the property collapse. The strategy: dump product abroad, collect foreign cash, and keep factories alive at any cost. That wave of cheap goods has triggered anger across the West. In Germany and the UK, chemical and manufacturing giants are shutting plants because they can't compete with a flood of underpriced imports. Steel, chemicals, textiles, entire sectors feel existential pressure, and Europe has decided it will not remain silent. In the Netherlands, the government did something extraordinary. It seized Nexperia, a major semiconductor firm majority owned by China's Wingtech, invoking the Goods Availability Act. The state stepped in, citing governance failures, and took control without warning. Production will continue, but under full government oversight. This is symbolic and seismic. Nexperia supplied vital chips to Europe's auto and electronics industries. Since its 2019 acquisition, Western intelligence worried that Chinese ownership could compromise supply in a crisis. That fear has now turned into direct action. Wingtech erupted with fury on social media, calling the move politically motivated and alleging US influence. But across Europe, many see it as the first of many crackdowns aimed at choking Beijing's reach in strategic sectors. Brussels has quietly been building legal tools to limit Chinese ownership in semiconductors, telecoms, critical minerals, energy grids, and AI. A mirror of steps Washington has already taken with export controls and bans on advanced chip sales. The Nexperia seizure sends a clear message: Europe will defend key industries. Still, questions remain about the durability of China's export recovery. Yes, shipments are up, but profits are down. Much of the growth appears to be rerouting and relabeling to avoid tariffs. Vietnam's exports have surged nearly 25% as goods are re-exported with new paperwork. Shipments to Africa jumped 56% in months. To Beijing, this is clever market pivoting. To Washington and Brussels, it looks like circumvention. The response may escalate. Washington has discussed massive tariff hikes, proposals that could push effective taxes on Chinese goods toward 140%, an economic firewall that would amount to near total blockade if implemented. The US and Europe are also moving to restrict Chinese EVs, batteries, and components, citing unfair subsidies and national security. It's a coordinated squeeze on China's fastest-growing export sectors. This confrontation has already leaked into unexpected arenas. In London, police dismantled the largest stolen phone smuggling ring in UK history, tens of thousands of iPhones bound for overseas markets. For intelligence and geopolitical analysts, incidents like this add to a picture of shadow trade networks and supply chain vulnerabilities tied to global demand for tech components. At the heart of the standoff is a deeper strategic shift. The old belief that economic interdependence prevents conflict is fraying. Instead of engagement, the West is moving toward defense. Call it de-risking or decoupling. Governments are building walls around critical industries while China doubles down on self-reliance under its dual circulation strategy: reduce dependence on foreign demand, increase domestic resilience. But China's internal picture is brittle. Consumer confidence is weak, the property crisis continues, and youth unemployment is high. Factories keep producing in hopes of either a rebound or some external solution. That cycle can end in two ways: a genuine recovery or a global trade meltdown. And the stakes go beyond tariffs and factories. China still controls much of the supply of rare earths and materials essential for EVs, smartphones, and advanced military tech. If Beijing ever weaponizes that leverage, the global economy could be plunged into chaos overnight. So the Nexperia seizure, while localized, is part of a larger domino effect. Every new policy, tariff, seizure, and supply chain reshuffle widens the rift between the world's two largest economies. What was once a web of mutual dependence risks becoming rival economic blocs? What happens if France, Germany, or Italy follow the Netherlands? What if the US seizes Chinese assets in retaliation for cyber attacks or espionage claims? Those are no longer hypothetical questions. They are being debated in capitals right now. For ordinary businesses and consumers, the consequences will be immediate. Higher electronics prices, shortages in key components, disruptions for automakers and tech firms. For investors, China's once irresistible growth story looks riskier, and money may quietly flow out. Beijing insists Western nations are overreacting and using security as a pretext for economic warfare. But the more China presses its advantage in supply chains, from batteries to rare earths, the more resistance it invites. The trade war that began with tariffs is mutating into a full-spectrum confrontation. Economic, technological, and political. When historians look back at this moment, the Dutch seizure, Europe's tightening defenses, Washington's new tariffs, they may mark it as the spark of a new era. This isn't just about chips or trade deficits. It's about control over the next generation of technology, energy, and information. The West has drawn a line. Beijing is holding firm, and the world is bracing for what comes next. But make no mistake, this is bigger than trade, bigger than politics. It's the dawn of a new global order where every nation must choose a side, every company must adapt, and every citizen will feel the ripple. The balance of power that once held the world together is breaking apart. The same systems that built decades of prosperity are now being weaponized. Technology, energy, and even information have become tools of control. Factories are no longer just places of production, they're front lines. Supply chains are no longer neutral, they're strategic choke points. And every microchip, every battery, every shipment that crosses an ocean is part of a silent battle for dominance. The West calls it protection. Beijing calls it provocation. But history will remember it as transformation. Because this isn't just an economic war, it's a race to define the future itself. The future of energy, of AI, of who leads and who follows. And in this new era, power won't belong to the richest nation, but to the one that adapts fastest. The storm has only just begun. And as the world divides, one question remains: who will control tomorrow? Don't miss what happens next in this global showdown. Like, subscribe, and stay informed.